What is happening, everybody? We are back on this fantastic evening. Your other host and I are both in North Carolina, and the weather's been kind of crazy the last couple days, but this evening it is absolutely beautiful outside. Welcome back to Beyond the Trail podcast, brought to you by Jester Wallis Productions. We are here with our fifth installment of our Director's Cut series. I am Julie Gayhart, and right here beside me, Mr. Austin. How are you doing this evening?
Just you mentioned the weather. The weather is fantastic, but I could do without some of this yellow snow that's out there. This pollen it's getting to me. But other than that, doing pretty well.
Yeah, the pollen is
So
thick and rough. It's about an inch.
'tis the season.
So if you have allergies, my heart goes out to you. Fortunately, I'm not having to deal with a lot of that right now, but everybody around me seems to be doing that. So it is the season. It's beautiful. It's supposed to be 85 degrees here tomorrow and through the weekend, and I am here for it. And I'm excited for this evening because we are unveiling some footage, never before seen footage from Miss Nancy East, who helped us basically put this entire film, Safe and Found, together, and her husband, Larry. I know,
Yeah.
Austin's laughing.
So so here, well, I'll start by saying it's only appropriate that we give Nancy her due time in the spotlight because she was the inspiration. You know, her book and her experience and everything was the inspiration for the film and what drew Julie and drew me to trying to pursue it. And so we started this project with one idea in mind, and so a lot of the footage that you're going to see tonight was actually filmed with that idea in mind. And then after we kind of got through this, I guess it's the first set of interviews, Julie.
Yeah.
We adjusted our approach, but I still felt kind of guilty. I would say more than kind. I felt pretty guilty because we subjected Nancy's husband Larry to a full-on interview on camera and never used one piece of his interview in the film.
Sorry,
Just because,
Larry. Very
sorry,
sorry.
Larry.
Well, I mean,
Uh, y- yeah, that is just kind of the way the cookie crumbled. We ended up with a story and a timeline, and we couldn't really find a place for Larry's stuff to fit. And so he got in the credits. I at least put his name in the credits because he sat in front of a camera and talked to us. But unfortunately, we couldn't use any of his footage. So we're going to show some of that tonight. So I feel like it's a little bit of redemption for us, Julie, to at
yeah.
least say sorry, Larry, and here's a peace offering.
But Larry was awesome. I
Yeah,
think Larry vacated his own home so we could
yeah,
film as well because we
yeah.
spent a lot of time at Nancy's house doing this. But before we get started with that, I do want to tell a little story. So, Austin, do you remember last time in episode number 4, we talked about how Safe and Found keeps on giving, and we just end up receiving random emails about
Yeah.
people watching the film. And I swear, it was only like a couple weeks after last month's episode, we got a message via Facebook Messenger that someone found our film, and she is an outdoor educator from Redmond, Washington. And she reached out to us and said she is using our film as part of her curriculum. So we are in an outdoor educational school in Redmond, Washington. And she also was kind of the inspiration on putting the roundtable discussion out. And she must have really inspired you, Austin. So do you want to tell that story? How, like, all of a sudden I got a text message that it was ready to go?
Well, yeah. So we've kicked around this idea of putting out the roundtable discussion in its full entirety out there for everybody to see for a while now. And the reason we have not done it is mainly because it's a huge pain.
Yeah, it's an hour and a
to
half.
it's an hour and a half long conversation. It's not even an interview. It's really a conversation. Hour and a half conversation. But in order to, um, I don't think, no, I don't have it pulled up on Final Cut, or I would show you what it looks like on the editing program. But cutting between each of the different camera shots and making sure the sound was right, and the I hadn't done any of the color correction for any of the shots, so fixing all of that. And it was kind of one of those things where it was kind of like, if I don't do it now, I'm a procrastinator, and I know myself well enough to know that if I don't do something and I want to put it off, I'm gonna put it off. And so I've actually, just in general in life, have gotten a lot better in the last couple of months of like, no, I need to do it. Let's do it. And so one Friday night, I'm a big partier, you can tell. So I stayed home on a Friday night and edited video. But one Friday night, I just sat down and probably spent 2.5, 3 hours and went through the whole thing, rendered it, uploaded it, and then Saturday morning sent Julie a text. Hey, it's done. It's up.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
up.
Can you
So
watch this?
yeah,
And the really cool thing out of this is not only have we put that out, but we were kind of going back and forth with an original thumbnail. And because we didn't like, I don't even remember what the original thumbnail looked like, you actually came up with an awesome new thumbnail. And now we have a new series. So we're going to start
yeah,
a whole new thing. It's called Safe and Found, the Interview Vault. And the first interview to come out of that series is the roundtable discussion. So actually,
named it.
it worked out.
Yeah, yeah, and I like what we named it too, the Architects.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah,
that was a cool title. Um, but yeah, feel free to go watch it over on the Jester Wallis Productions YouTube page. And it is broken down in kind of like chapters. So if you look down at the little scrolling bar on the bottom of the screen, you can see the different chapters and kind of skip forward if there's something you want to listen to. But those guys talk about all kinds of stuff. They talked about some of the searches that we didn't include in the film. They talked about Snow Boys, talked about Christine Bowman. They talked about the team, just a whole bunch of
yeah.
stuff.
Julie Hayes.
Yeah, and then again, just watching that interaction between these huge personalities was just fun. So, and
Yeah,
it
and
was fun
the end is
fun going
really
back
good
through.
too. Yeah, the end is
Yeah,
really good too.
yeah. So, highly encourage you to sit down and watch that, or just listen to it while you're sipping your morning coffee one weekend. So, yeah, good times.
Yeah. So Safe and Found continues. It's still growing on YouTube. We have, as of today, 27,300 views. And 1 week from this Sunday, the film will be premiering at the River Run International Film Festival.
Yeah.
And Austin, we're sponsored, and I didn't even know it. So the film is sponsored at the film festival by the Great Outdoor Provision Company. And originally, our whole goal with this was the film would always be free, and we wanted it to be educational. And they're sponsoring it so people can go see it at the film festival for free. So I'm telling you, this stuff just keeps on giving them. We don't even have to do anything at this point.
Right. I think that's awesome. I think it's just it has it has fulfilled every hope that we had for the film, and then it just keeps growing, like you said. It just keeps getting bigger, and we keep getting these wonderful random messages and notes from people, and people excited about the film just like we are. So that's heartwarming and very encouraging. So yeah, feels pretty darn good.
Yeah, pretty cool. So, yeah. So that event is coming up, and then we'll have another one. It's going to be premiering in July. So
Mm.
who knows? Who knows what random email we're going to get the next time?
Right.
I'm here for it. We are here for it. So, with that being said, I guess we better get started with this evening's episode, continuing on our Director's Cut series. And I think, Austin, this is the point where I turn it over to you and flip the screen here, and we get down to some logistics and get to some behind the scenes footage. So, I'm going to go ahead and flip this over here.
So just as a full disclosure, I want everyone to kind of appreciate how much footage there really is. So this is just these are all the interviews we had with Nancy. So you can see there's one, two, three, four, five different interviews where we put this poor woman on camera. Um, and so lots of all the green are the clips that are not being shown. The blue are the ones that are being shown. So you can kind of see here's the one, and we're not going to do this to you, Nancy, but there's a whole thing about uh, her Nancy reading her own book on camera so that we could get the sound bites, which we used in the film. So that was tremendously helpful. But we had Nancy talk about all the different team members, all of this stuff. And it was really tough to try to pick out things to go over tonight because, as you can see, there's just so much.
Yeah.
So who knows? Maybe one day when I'm just aching for things to edit, I'll go through and we'll do a footage vault for Nancy's stuff.
Yeah, it would be really good because she has a whole thing. We went through this whole thing with her on the 10 essentials.
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah,
that would
that's
be
another
awesome
part.
too. Yeah.
Yeah. So let me
Yeah.
switch back over to Final Cut here. And so, like I said, Nancy was the kind of the genesis for this whole idea, and her experience with search and rescue, and then her experience with Susan Clements and that recovery. And so that's where we started. And so that's where these interviews start. And again, it's been trimmed down for tonight's purposes, but this first kind of clip is just kind of getting to know Nancy a little bit. And yeah, so I'll just play it from the beginning. Here we go.
So, yeah, so I grew up in an urban setting. So I did not grow up in any place that looked like Waynesville, North Carolina. It was the city of Atlanta, Georgia. And as some of these things that you'll see in gift shops say, I got to the mountains as fast as I could after veterinary school because it always resonated with me, these mountains. When I first cut my teeth with backpacking in North Georgia, I thought I want to be somewhere that looks like this and feels like this. So I moved here and reconnected with my high school sweetheart. And we got married in 2000, and then a family followed after that a few years later. So we have 3 kids now, ages 19, I have to think about it, 17, and almost 16, 15, and 1 dog. And we've been here ever since. But yeah, I came here to start my career as a veterinarian, which has morphed and changed over the years in terms of what that looks like. But now I am mostly retired from that profession and spend a heck of a lot more time out in the woods trying to educate people on backcountry safety, skills that they need, and just might enjoy, not even stuff that they need, and writing a lot of freelance projects. But these mountains are what makes me tick. They are at the root of everything I do professionally, but my family is certainly the reason I do it. Every time I think of search and rescue, all I have to do is replace the people that I'm looking for, since I'm on the team here in Haywood County, which I think I neglected to even say, but all I have to do is replace those faces with my family members, and that's definitely the heart of why I do it.
I'm Larry East, Nancy's husband of, let's see, what year is it? 2023, so 23 years. Made it easy. We made it easy. But we, like, as you mentioned, we have known each other, I guess we've known each other since ninth grade, started dating in 10th, 11th grade, so since we were 16 years old. Kind of went our separate ways in college and then got back together when we were 28 or so. And we had both grown up south of Atlanta, lived in the big city, and I went to Georgia Tech and had got my engineering degree there. And lived in the big city, and she went to Auburn and got her veterinary degree. And so when she moved up to the mountains and did veterinary work for a few years, when we started dating again, she said, well, if you want to marry me, you're going to have to move to the mountains. So here I am. And that's the end of the story. That's how it usually goes.
So cool to have context between, Nancy. You rarely see her in that outfit in the movie. I think there's one clip where
Yeah,
you see
that was
her,
one of the first ones.
yeah, in that black top. So, and then to interweave Larry in there is fantastic.
Well, one of the things that Nancy said that it caught my ear, just when I was putting this all together for tonight, because more than one team member said this in their own way. But she said, all I have to do is replace my family's faces with those people that we're looking for, those people that we're rescuing, and that was enough. And we heard that more than once, where it was like, if it was me or mine, that's who I would want this team coming out, and that's why I do it. And so I just thought that was neat that even again at the very beginning of this project, I think this was the actual very first interview we shot for the film.
Yeah.
Even at the very, very beginning, that theme was there. We just didn't even realize it. But yeah, that was cool. And we'll show a lot more of Larry tonight. But yeah, that interaction between the two, and obviously, I don't think Larry or Nancy has seen any of this footage. So
No, and
when
Nancy was not home purposely when Larry interviewed.
yeah,
We kind of did that, or maybe she set that up where, I think so he could feel free to, be open to say anything.
right,
And same with her. So,
yeah,
and
yeah.
we got some really cool clips coming up. I'm excited.
So this next part is kind of geared towards Nancy's all of her kind of escapades. I don't know how else to say it, because she's an author and she's a guide and she's obviously on the team, but she also does all these other things, and so she kind of turned into kind of a local celebrity, and so a lot of this is kind of geared towards how she manages that, and interestingly enough, how her family manages that as well. Because the purpose of this line of questioning, with Larry specifically, we wanted to talk about, at the time, we didn't know how we were going to weave it in there, but at the time, we wanted to kind of talk about the families of the search and rescue team and how they manage the stress, or how they support their significant other that when they go out on these searches. And so that was kind of where we were geared towards, and that was the main reason we wanted to talk to Larry, was to kind of get that perspective of the home front, how that looked. So I'll go ahead and skip forward. And here we go.
What do your kids say about you? How do they see you? Obviously, they see you as mom,
Yeah.
but you have three. You have one in college and two at high school. How do they perceive you?
That's a really good question. It's so hard.
And you could break down all three if you want, because I'm sure you have a different relationship with, all
Yes.
three of your kids.
Exactly.
And I'll even add your husband in there. So I'd like to hear what you think their perspectives are.
Yeah, definitely. So, yeah, maybe I should break it down into their ages, because I think it is an age-related thing. The older they get, I think the more they see that, I'm not maybe the typical soccer mom in terms of the things that I like to do.
I love
And
that.
I don't mean to stereotype anybody. I mean, everybody has their own unique interests, every individual, and especially every mom. But I think there are things that feed our soul as moms. And when I seek time off, it's not to go get a pedicure or a massage. It's I want to head to the woods and go out and hike 40 miles. And, they used to think that was a little bit strange. But the older they get, the more I think they realize I need to tap into the things that fill me up just like they do. It just looks different for all of us. So I think they respect it all. They do, I would say, worry a little bit sometimes, especially my oldest. He in particular just knows the older he gets that, things can happen in this world, and people may not live to be 100 if they want to, if something unfortunate happens, a car accident or something in the woods or whatever. So he tends to be the one to keep me accountable, and did you leave your safety plan, Mom, and make sure you check in with Dad when you get home, that type of thing.
That's a good question. I mean, they look up to her, incredibly. So I would definitely say that that she is one of their heroes for sure. Especially during the FKT. I think that's that's when they were really like, wow. And then they'll have friends or people at school or somewhere, one of the teachers or something mention, I think I saw your mom in the paper again the other day, because she pops up all the time going and speaking for this engagement or that engagement. And they're like, that's kind of cool. Mom's almost like a little, she's a celebrity in the local area, So, and in the hiking community, for sure. So, and I think, she has really tried to instill outdoor values in all of us, because I came from the big city of Atlanta and didn't do a whole lot of outdoor stuff growing up, just like she really didn't either. I mean, all of that didn't or really transpired once she moved up here, and then really in just the last 10 to 15 years, of her hiking and having the Smokies in her backyard to as this amazing playground to go out and explore and adventure.
My daughter, I think she truly loves that I go out and do these things. I think that she thinks I'm crazy for doing the extreme things that I do. She thinks that it would be a much better use of my day to go spend the time painting a scene in the woods and walking in 2 miles. But she certainly understands that it's just not what feeds me like it does her. And then the youngest, yeah, he's really sports oriented. So I think he understands the athleticism of it all, that I like to push the limits in terms of what I can achieve because he's cut from that cloth. He likes to play different sports and figure out what he's made of in that regard. So, yeah, but I think they all appreciate what I do. They just don't necessarily understand what it is that feeds me out there because it doesn't necessarily pertain to them as much as it does me.
And what about your husband?
Yeah, he definitely gets it. He understands that as a parent, we both need our outlets and we need our time away, even from each other and from the marriage. I mean, that's a healthy thing to miss someone and to come home to them. And I think sometimes he wishes that I was a bit more broad in my spectrum of things that I like to do because I'm a one-trick pony. I like to hike and
Yeah.
I'm not a thrill seeker. He loves to mountain bike. He loves to downhill ski and do all these things that are more adrenaline charged, whereas I'm very meditative with the things I like to do. I always like to say, if I'm going to ski, it's going to be on cross-country skis. I just want to, it's got to be really low risk in terms of what I do. But yeah, he completely understands and he affords me every opportunity that he can as far as from a time perspective of breaking free to recharge my batteries, because that's what I always say happens out there.
No, but having known her that long, I get the question sometimes of your wife has all these crazy projects and things that she's doing where she's pushing these boundaries. Does it surprise you or are you worried about her? I'm like, I've known this lady since I was 16 years old, and no, I'm not worried about her. I mean, I worry about her from time to time because she will push certain boundaries with the stuff that she does, but not anything crazy. It might be in the eyes of sort of of normal people, of her out hiking by herself and things like that. We get, she gets a lot of comments about, oh, you're a female hiker and you're out, doing these overnights and hiking, 2 or 3 days or a whole week at the Palmetto Trail or whatever by yourself. But I think we both kind of learned to overcome that and the things to say to sort of appease the people and move on and do our thing.
I think it's only appropriate. It's only appropriate to point out that if you follow Nancy on social media, she's out through hiking the Allegheny Trail right now, and I'm pretty sure I saw Larry out there with her, maybe intermittently. So they're out there adventuring as we speak. So I think it's cool we get to hear them talk about it.
And I did tell her that her and Larry were on the next director's cut. And she asked me to be kind. And I said, always, always, Nancy. Because she knows we have some good outtakes, I guess we should say. But it's good. Reel. Yeah, it's good to, I hope people watch this because it's good to get context to who Nancy is, her family life, and actually their values, because I think that plays a major role in her having the ability and the wherewithal to be on a search and rescue team, because it does take a unique individual to make that happen. And it does take a unique family lifestyle to have that happen. So, I mean, Nancy, I think we've said this before, she's the one on the team that, Nancy can just go hike 50 miles or, 40 or whatever they need. Nancy's the hiker, the one that can go all day and search. So she is gone from her family quite a bit. And we did have a chance to meet her kids, and they're awesome too.
Yeah, and we use Nancy and her family kind of as the example, but I think it's important to point out that every single person on that search and rescue team has their own family story and their own family dynamic, and everybody's got to work it out in their own way because these searches intrude into their daily lives, where they start missing family events. They miss recitals and soccer games and family outings and that kind of thing because of their commitment to this team. And so we use Nancy as an example because she's gracious enough to let us in. But all of these team members, they have their own battle to face, and I use battle loosely, but it's a challenge that not only they have to overcome, but their family has to come to terms with it as well, so that everybody's on the same page. So I think that's probably, just from my own personal experience and in my past, having your family to support you is everything. When you're out there doing your thing, knowing that you've got that support behind you and that support that you can come home to is huge. And so, yeah, I think the families deserve just as much credit as the team members, because while they may not be out there in the woods searching or plucking people out from their worst day, the families are they have their own set of stressors. Just like Larry was talking about, that even as accomplished as Nancy is as an outdoors person, he still worries about her. I think that's important to note, that even though she's got she's got it together,
Yeah.
there's still love and there's still worry there. So, and that's not unique just to them. That's for the whole team. So I think it's pretty awesome.
Yeah. Yeah. And we will say it's from Nancy's side too, because when we were there, Larry had some pickleball going on, and it was like, nope, Larry's going to pickleball. And Nancy was like, that's
Yeah.
what he does. That's his thing. And I'm like, all right, here we go.
Here we go. So this next clip, excuse me, we actually used one of the clips in this sequence in the film, where Nancy talks about what the search and rescue team is, what the Haywood County Search and Rescue Team is. And in fact, it's one of the first sound bites that you hear in the film after we do our little intro, and Nancy comes on. That's one. This is that clip is the first thing. And so the question that Julie asked in the interview was what the Haywood County Search and Rescue Team is. And so that was her answer, and that answer made it into the final cut of the film. But Julie, you being the expert interviewer that you are, then you asked, who is the Haywood County Search and Rescue Team? And as you can see, Nancy it was a much more complex answer. So I'll go ahead and hit play here.
So you've defined the what it is. Now define who you are.
This one's harder. This one's hard to put into words because it comes so much from the heart. It's not a concrete answer. But I would say at the heart, we are more than a community. We're certainly an extension, I think, of each other's families. And I think I say that for anyone who sticks around long enough. People come and go on search and rescue. It's a big ask to train for all these different disciplines, even to have just minimal proficiency in all of them. It's a big ask to say you just worked, all day, 10, 12 hours, 8 hours even, and now I want you to come out in the middle of the night and search for somebody in 40-degree weather with rain and wind and cold and all these things. So not everybody sticks around, but those who do bring something really special to the table because they are willing to keep coming out and serving in this capacity. And so I think because of that, there just is a natural inherent bond that forms over time, and it forms really quickly. I like to think of it almost like people who probably thru hike a long trail, they connect really quickly and they stay connected and become very close friends by the end of a thru hike, but it seems to unfold even quicker than the duration of that hike. And that seems to be the trend with search and rescue. And I know I could call on anybody on our team for something personal and they'd have my back, and same goes for me with them. And I think too, what we do as far as some of the more unfortunate situations that we find ourselves in, that can't help but bond you as well, because they can be very challenging emotionally. And I like to refer to the thin places, kind of that veil between the here and the reality of here on earth. And then there's just this thin veil that people believe sometimes separates us from what's beyond there. And I think we're exposed to that a lot on search and rescue, or thankfully not a lot, but enough that we see that thin place in family members' eyes and each other's eyes. I mean, some of the things we're exposed to are incredibly painful to take with you beyond that. And I think that probably creates as much of a connection as anything on our team, is some of the more challenging rescues, but it also creates this
That bird made her laugh.
that's
Yeah.
just this intense love for each other and compassion and empathy, and just wanting to make sure that we are all okay at the end of the day when we do have to have these really challenging situations that we come home from.
To answer back to your original question, which is what drives a group of people that care that much about each other and have each other's backs in all these different situations.
It's hard to fathom, and we're learning. I'm almost going to come up with a new definition of what a volunteer is. Because when you volunteer for the local bake sale, it's not volunteering on a search and rescue team. That's a different type of volunteer. Yes. And yeah. And to me, to a lot of people, to the norm, not necessarily. I understand, I get it. But this is way more than a volunteer role. Give us your perspective on that. Like I'm over here trying to redefine what a volunteer is. Do you think about that? Or is it just she's on this search and rescue team and the hours that they spend doing this? I guess one of the things I really want to try to portray in this film is that they are volunteer. Mm-hmm. And people need to be more cautious of what they're doing, because the goal is to put these, the search and rescue team out of a job. So what does volunteer in terms of search and rescue with Nancy mean to you?
That's a great question, because you just made me think about that. This is I don't even know what you would call this, but it's a whole different level of volunteer, right? Yeah. Like you said, there's volunteers in the community. I go to Rotary, I go to the Master Gardener plant sale or whatever and spend a little time there answering questions. That's volunteering my time in the community. But to volunteer almost your soul to do an organization like this, somebody, not in a religious sense, but I've heard the term servant leader, and it's almost more like they're a servant of the community. But it's something that drives them more than just your normal volunteer worker who's either doing it for business or for even just a personal, I want to be involved in the community kind of thing. It's a lifestyle, because it's kind of neat. All of them got these, or a lot of them got these like Garmin watches, and they communicate back and forth, especially the ones that are on I can't remember what they call them, the fast team or the first team that goes out, and they have to be in, really, I mean, the whole team has to be in really great shape to do the things that they do and stay out there and have the endurance that they do. But they communicate in that way. They'll say, they can all see how much activity that they've each done for the day, whether they went to CrossFit or they went to run or did something. It's like this sort of hidden competition that's going on to keep them all in shape as a community, and then there have been days that Nancy will say, I've got to do something today because I know that Austin or any Eric or any of these other guys have already put in 12,000 steps. I've got to get out there.
That takes peer pressure to a point.
It does, doesn't it?
So
I'm like, she
said,
do you want me to get you one of these watches? I said, no, I do not.
I don't even want to see your watch.
But yeah, I mean, all of these, and I've seen it in other aspects of the community too. There seem to be these individuals that provide some continuity across, like I think about like our, even like our kids' soccer organizations, who they may not even have kids in the soccer organization, but they're there year after year after year. And if you were to ask them why, why are you here year after year? Well, my kids are here, my grandkids are here, and I want this to continue for the next generation, you know, and this organization doesn't exist unless I'm here doing these things. I would say the same thing for search and rescue. Is it started out as it was a pretty small group of people when she started, you know, and I don't know how long she's been doing it now, but
I think it seems the core group in 2015 seems to be a
Okay.
year
that sounds, yeah, that sounds about right. So, yeah, around that time, it's like they started doing more recruiting and there were some more funds available, and it just became like this real thing in the community. And a lot more organized training and skill development, and ropes, and you know, fast water, and all these different cool things that they do. Very well trained, organized, and professional individuals, and they're all so humble about it. I'd be willing to bet that most of these folks at a dinner party or cocktail party will never talk about any of this stuff that they do. And most of them don't want to be in the newspaper, and probably most of them don't want to be on this documentary because you got them anyway. But because they're so humble about what they do, but they know that this is for the good of search and rescue, and so if it's for the good of search and rescue and for the good of the cause, they'll man up or woman up and do it. Yeah.
I love that the group. I don't know how you say it, stalking each other on what you do for the workouts to hold each other accountable.
Yeah,
I thought
that
that
was
was the
fun.
funniest thing.
Larry was like, I don't want nothing to do with it.
Oh, absolutely not.
Yeah,
But
that was good. That was a good perspective of Larry, his perspective of the team, and what his really he gave the definition of the team. In my long question of what a volunteer was, I was like, "Get it out, Julie. Ask him what a volunteer is."
well, no, I mean that's how
Yeah,
sometimes the interviews happen.
yeah,
But his response, you volunteer your soul.
that right there.
Ooh. That was if Larry was going to get a clip in the final cut of the film, that was going to be it. Again, we just couldn't figure out how to make it happen.
Yeah,
But yeah, what a wonderful way to describe the service that these folks do. They volunteer their souls for sure,
yeah.
and give each other a hard time when they don't work out for that particular day.
I say,
But I mean,
why
that's
not? Yeah,
but I mean that's the level of commitment that it takes. Because it's not one of those things where you can just jump off the couch and go do a rescue, or Um, these guys are training, if it's not technical training, whether it's ropes or medical or anything like that, it's the physical training. They have to physically be able to be out there for several days. And so sometimes, it's not fun. It takes commitment. It takes understanding the higher purpose to get out there. So I think, the favorable outcomes and even some of the unfavorable outcomes that they have with searches is kind of everybody sees the result. They just like seeing the athlete win the race. That's the result, and everybody's like, "Oh, that's just amazing." I wish I could do that. But what they don't see is all of the work that went into
yeah,
it. Because that's just the tip of the iceberg is such an overused metaphor, but that's just the tip of the iceberg. When you see them out there conducting these searches, that is just one small fraction of what they actually do with the team. All of the preparation, just daily training sometimes. Uh, it's it's overwhelming when you start to think of it in that perspective. So
yeah.
yeah.
And we've heard from other agencies that have been around the filming and that we've been around. I mean, Haywood County Search and Rescue, they set the standard and they hold their standard.
Mhm.
And I mean, they have set the standard in that area. And there's other search and rescue teams, nearby. The Great Smoky Mountains has a team. And Haywood County, they set the standard. And just them working out is them holding to that standard. And they're not going to let that go.
Yep, for sure, for sure. In fact, they're so well known. Our friend out on the West Coast that sent us the message about um, the roundtable interview was talking about the fact that she follows the team already on social media, and that's how she found out about the film.
Oh, that's right.
Um,
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, so I mean, they've got a name for themselves, so and clearly a good name.
Yeah,
So
for sure.
I'll be honest with you, I don't remember what this next clip is on, but it was important enough to include. So I'm just gonna hit play. We're all gonna figure it out together.
That's definitely in her personality, and that's another of her DNA. Is her mom was an Episcopal priest, and part of what she did was pastoral care, and so she just cared about people and was one of the most thoughtful people you've ever met in your life, and so much of that is carried into Nancy's personality. That Yeah, it's interesting that, I mean, it doesn't surprise me, but it's like every one of these searches that she will try to connect with those people for multiple reasons. I think one, she wants to learn more about what got them there, but she wants to make sure they're okay. Even the ones that have been injured, really badly, she's gone to their fundraisers and been a part of that. But she continues to be a part of a lot of um, um, the customers or the hikers that they find and rescue. There's quite a few of them. She's stayed in their lives. She follows them on Facebook, and they communicate from time to time. And they may be in town and get together for coffee or a beer or something like that. And a lot of them have been very, very, appreciative and continue to be. But I think that's kind of the way in the medical and the rescue world in ambulances, and you see so many. You can't follow everybody, and she doesn't follow up with every single situation, but there are some that strike her, and I think her personality is such that she likes to connect with people, and especially those people that she's been a part of in their lives in a very positive way, and in some in a very hard way, like with the Clements family. She was very like that one hit her really close to home because she had lost her mom, a few years before, and so really could feel the pain of of the daughters and how all that transpired, and was one of the reasons it really inspired her to continue doing all these things. And I think she said multiple times, I don't ever want another, somebody like Susan Clements, somebody's mom like that, to die in such a way.
So that's what it was. The I don't want to call it the disconnect, but just kind of the empty void that is produced when you're a member of one of these teams. You go out, you um, spend however much effort and time uh, retrieving someone from the wilderness and bringing them back to safety, and either getting them home, getting to the hospital, or whatever. But then there's this, they just, you put them on the bus, and they drive away, and that's it. That's the last time you see them. That's the last time you talk to them. And so Nancy, to her credit, reaches out to these folks. And so again, that's why Nancy's listed as a producer in the film, because she made it happen with these connections that she's made. She connected us with Elizabeth Clemens. She connected us with David and Christine. And so, yeah, her ability to connect with people after these rescues or these incidences is the reason the film is what it is. And so I think it's an amazing service she does for them as well. Because what was interesting, and I think we've probably mentioned this at least once before in this director's cut series, but with Christine Bowman, she kind of, and I think we talked about it in her interview, and I can't remember if we talked about it in this series or not, but she talked about the fact that she never really got that. There was this void on her end of like, I want to thank these people. I want to say thank you. I want them to know how much it meant for them to come save me. But there was just that lack of connection. And so our premiere, the Safe and Found premiere in Waynesville, was that opportunity for them to finally make that connection. And so Christine was able to actually talk and hug some of her rescuers that pulled her out of the off the mountain that night.
Yeah, it was like
So
Christmas morning for Christine that day. It was really cool to see.
yeah. But yeah, this is a huge tip of the cap to Nancy, and her drive and her spirit, and her empathy with people, that she understands. There's probably a need on both sides of the table, for this connection after the fact, just for closure, and and she's developed friendships, from this. So I think it's pretty darn cool.
Yeah, very cool.
All right, so I do remember what our last clip was, and it was kind of, uh, Nancy's evolution of how she came up with the term "safe and found," because it is Nancy's term; it's not ours. She
We do
mentions
have
it.
permission.
We do have permission, but she kind of talks about where it all came from in this last clip.
So the film title is Safe and Found. And we've been talking about this. The thing we want to do is be very educational. And the team has reminded me, and probably Austin too, that the reason they agreed for this is they want it to be as educational as possible. So when you're defining what safe and found means, it's okay to go ahead and be educational. It doesn't have to be entertaining. So let's talk about what is your definition of safe and found, and maybe start off where that phrase came from, how you ended up using that phrase, and just kind of walk us through.
Yeah, I honestly don't remember where I heard that phrase. I'm sure I did. I don't think that's novel to me, but I think initially stemmed in my mind anyway from the play on words of lost and found, because it's what we do with search and rescue, right? We go out and look for people who are either lost or injured, find them and bring them back to safety. But really what it means in terms of the lens of preventative search and rescue is more of safe and sound versus lost and found. And so it's more of a proactive meaning to teach people what they need to know before they enter the backcountry in order to not need to be rescued and not become one of these lost and found type cases. And so that can be anything from and a lot of it is the preparation that you do before you even set foot in the backcountry with what you pack in your pack, leaving an itinerary with someone back home, checking the weather forecasts for the day you leave, in addition to maybe a couple of days out, even for a day hike in case you're out there longer and you know how to prepare if you are out there waiting for a SAR team's help. And then on the trail, of course, it's all types of things, navigation, knowing how to get from point A to point B, not just relying on a cell phone to do that, having a paper map as, as either a primary source of navigation or as a backup if you like to use digital apps. And just knowing how to mitigate anything that might arise in the backcountry that knocks you off course, or you pick up an injury and need to bail, but you can do it under your own power. Just all sorts of things that will weave into just your own safety and leaving the woods in as good a shape as you entered them, or at least alive when you exit them.
So yeah, you can see how extremely appropriate that title is for this film. When you listen to her explain it, it fits. I don't know how else to say it. Everything just kind of lines up.
It just kind of fit. So, yeah, I mean, that's the only way to say it. So we do have a question in the chat. How does East Coast versus West Coast SAR differ? And we are not experts. Austin and I are not experts on this. And I know what makes Haywood County Search and Rescue different is they are a standalone entity. They are not part of the local fire department. They are not part of the local EMS system. And that was not how it was originally. And that is why the director, Mike Street, was, I guess, appointed, hey, do you want to direct this team? We want it to be in a separate entity. And therefore, they also started their own wilderness safety fund to help fund that team. And I think it just depends on where you live. Sometimes the search and rescue team can be part of the local fire department, can be part of the local EMS. They're paid individuals versus volunteer. And I think it is different across the country.
Yeah.
Yeah, we are by no means experts. We live on the East Coast, but from what we have heard, that would be the difference. Austin, you probably have way more knowledge of this than I do.
Not really. I think it's obviously it's terrain dependent because the terrain in both the East and West Coast are very different. Um, and so there's probably different skill sets that might be required. You know, the reliance on, rotary wing aircraft or fixed wing aircraft for searches, the use of canines or anything like that is all dictated by circumstance. Whether that circumstance is the terrain, whether it's the skill sets of the team. I think it's going to be different. But I think the thing, as I listened to the question, one of the things that kind of stuck out in my mind is that yes, search and rescue teams are different across the country in a lot of ways. Their organization, their expertise, the composition of the team itself. But the thing that I think is the same across all search and rescue teams is this drive,
Yeah.
this volunteering their souls for this cause. That some might be paid, like you said, Julie. Some might be on some type of paid status, and some are like Haywood County, where it's 100% volunteer. But regardless of funds, the drive is there. That volunteering your soul is still there. That's
Yeah.
what stuck out to me is it's easy to point out the differences, but the fact that they're all kind of the same, they're all cut from the same cloth. That's what sticks out for me. Is they're all the same in my mind.
And if you have not seen our round table discussion, that discussion itself is with a former sheriff, the former EMS director of Haywood County, and Mike Street, who is the current director of the Haywood County Search and Rescue Team. And at the very beginning of that interview, they talk about, if the sheriff gets a call or EMS gets a call, it's like they have a protocol that they have to go through before they actually send out the search and rescue team. And I think that could even go city by city, county by county, who the sheriff is. It can actually get complicated, I think.
Very quickly. Yeah, for sure. But yeah, are there any other questions? I closed down my windows because I don't know if my internet connection was lagging the feed or not, but
Nope, we are good to
right.
go. So again, you guys, if you are in the North Carolina area, anywhere around Winston-Salem, North Carolina, again, the film continues to educate. So we are showing the film at the River Run International Film Festival, and directly after the film, there is going to be a panel of local search and rescue individuals from that area. So that'll be cool to meet some of those individuals and, just hear their thoughts about the film and, just be a part of that. And then we'll be back next month. And I think we kind of made a decision on our director's cut for next month. Austin, you want to tell them about that? Do you remember what we said?
I don't know if we decided or not.
Oh, we made, okay, folks, again, in Austin Julie style.
We've got some ideas.
We've got some ideas because May is going to be kind of I don't want to call it the final episode, but it'll kind of round out what we're doing for the spring leading into the summer. In June, we are going to have an interview from an individual that is going to be, I think I don't know what her title is. She leads the charge when it comes to the Tri-State Outdoor Festival. I don't want to call her the organizer because she's way more than that. But she's going to be coming on. We're going to be chatting with her, and she's going to be telling us why they chose the film and what's going to be going on with that festival. And they expect over 5,000 people at that thing.
Big deal.
Which is awesome. So other than that, another episode in the books. Summer is coming, and we're going to have our adventures that we are going to be
Yeah.
doing this summer. I know, I'm excited. I'm actually excited for my spring break. Not next week, but the following week. So, yeah, with that being said, we will be back in May, and then we'll be back in June. Austin, I don't have anything else.
Appreciate everybody that logged in with us tonight and joined the chat. And thanks for everyone that's watching after the fact too. We
Yeah.
really this director's cut series has been a lot of fun to kind of go through because it gives us an opportunity, one, to look at some old footage that we haven't seen in a while. But it just highlights the fact that there's so many different stories that didn't make the cut for the final film. And there's so much gold in this footage that we're still not even getting down into the weeds with it. So, but yeah, thanks again for everyone. And Julie, I'll hand it back over to you to finish it up.
Yeah, I forgot. We actually have a closing for this. So be safe out there, everybody.
And good times.